I'm Tamara Caulder Richardson, and welcome to the Seeking Heaven channel.
And here we are. So, and for real, welcome to the Seeking Heaven channel. Thanks for being here. And today we're talking about UFO disclosure. Before we start, a couple quick announcements. We're going to jump into it. I want to mention my Academy of Divine Wisdom, Ascension School. Be a part of my newsletter. You get a free Christ-like meditations. Really cool. It'll connect you to the Most High. It really is. It's what I use to connect every time, as well as check out my services. Have a lot of Galactic Starseed services. If that is not up your alley, you can also check out my Evidential mediumship, and make sure you as well connect to this channel and subscribe. I want to make sure that you are a part of that. And then one quick thing, an announcement, I am going to be co-hosting and speaking at the Ultimate Star Beings Conference. So do make sure that you participate with that. That is going to be January. Let me make sure I found that. Here it is, January 11th through 15th. It is totally free. And I will be on the Galactic Ascension panel that is coming up. I think it's that the 11th. So make sure you check that out. It's going to have some really interesting topics. So let me jump right into today's guest. Now, if you haven't seen the first one, which is Suzanne Ross on her spiritual journey and how far she's come, she's done so much for the Ascension movement. And please check that out. I think it's a really good conversation. And you'll find out a lot about her and some of the things that she's doing and some of her stories, which we're going to hear more today, more UFO type stories. But Suzanne, let me tell you a little bit about her. She is a galactic humanitarian. She's an event producer. She's an Ascension speaker, as well as guide, and she does so much. An author. She has several books out. I mean, there's so much she has done. Again, I encourage you to watch the first episode, but she has a trilogy called Wake Up, Rise Up, and Lighten Up. She is also the executive producer of Spy TV. She does celebrity tours for the Sedona Vortex Tour. She does that. She has this twice a year, this big event company, Sedona Ascension Retreats, which I got to experience last year, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very soulful. And then she herself, in her own right, is she does a lot. She's intuitive. She's a channeler. She's very connected, and she's been on shows like Gaia, Coast to Coast. So within her own right, she is a very fascinating person. So I'm going to bring her on because I want to pick her brains about what is going on with this UFO disclosure and dissension. There's like a Freudian slip just come out. We're not being told the truth, but we are not alone. So I'm with Mulder on this.
Yes, me too. I'm with all the latest disclosure that's coming out from Stephen Greer and David Grush. And believe me, I'm tuned into all of that. And for my events, I always have people like Linda Moulton Howe, people who are very tuned into the UFO ET disclosure.
Yes, and I wonder while we're talking about that, all the information will be below, but just so we don't forget, because we're going to get so into this today, we're going to just do it. Okay, let me go ahead and put your event thing. So everybody, I'm sorry, it's covering up people's words. Let me get that. Okay, so she mentioned Linda Moulton Howe, but this is her event coming up in March, which is it's varied with very accomplished speakers. It really is. If you're looking for a spiritual journey, it is fun. You won't be disappointed. So
yes, you have, a lot of the channelers who are tuning into the Galactics and bringing through such phenomenal knowledge and wisdom and guidance. So, that's a really key part of the event, is to get that advanced information from highly evolved beings who are in love with and support for humanity.
Yes, and we're going to talk about how consciousness is changing and how they're connecting to star seeds as far as our star family and what's going on with that. I do want to mention, I don't know if you know, this is so funny. I forgot to mention in the last episode. So this is just it's just a tidbit of unusual information. And I think it's kind of, how life circles back around. So in my early 20s, I might have been 23, 24, 25. My sister-in-law was involved with MUFON. Okay, Ginger Ridge Clay, my husband's sister. Well, she used to have people over. I don't know why. I guess she used to have. We're in a home now, but we had an apartment. So she would have people come over, like Donald Smith. She'd have all these UFO speakers. We went to things with her. She had events. And I met Bob Lazar early on when he was young over a cocktail party. We were talking, and I listened to him. I didn't know one way what to think about it. I was young. And then, but Linda Moulton came over to the house and became very good friends with Ginger. So I remember her. This is just, life, an unusual thing. When she was just starting out, she was working on that documentary for HBO about the cattle mutilation. And she just did research, and it was so much so that that's what propelled her in this whole thing. And she's an expert now and has done in-depth research, physical, tangible, evidential research. And so I thought that was interesting, that how the universe, back when I was like a little doe, I had no idea. I mean, my 20s, I just want to party and have fun. Girls just want to have fun. But I was interesting, I was there. But then here we go full circle a few years later. And then here, and I've watched her career. So she is extremely credible. And I know she's very passionate about this topic, but I thought I have her first videos that she did, like on, what is it, VHS? So anyway, interesting little tidbit there. So I know you've got an experience that you want to share, but I also know, like, inquiring mind, they really want to know, which is my inquiring mind, and the people that watch my channel are truth seekers. They're very open. And when I try to be picky who's on the best I can. When I say, hey, you should check it out, they usually do. They're very aware, consciously aware people. And you're right there in Sedona, which is why you have these awesome events and these beautiful tours. But are you seeing, how do I put this? Yeah, we know we're not being told a lot, but I've had UFO experiences. I've also had contact from the Galactic Communication, the Syrian High Council, the Palladian High Council, the Arcturians, different ones, and they're really like talking to people, everybody that's open to it. They really are. And so I know they're talking to people like you, to me, others that are open to that. But there's also physical proof too. It's not just the astral. What's the buzz going on in Sedona? Is there more activity these days?
Well, personally, I've had a missing time experience here off my back deck, and I have seen on two separate occasions, clearly UFOs, one hovering over a red rock formation and one just in the sky above my house. Well, I saw a third one at nighttime. But this, missing time experience was really the key that catapulted me into being able to see and communicate interdimensionally. But really, my experience with the Galactic started even before I was born, because my father, at the age of 18, had a missing time experience, which resulted in him having a triangular shaped metallic object in his wrist that growing up, he called his alien chip.
Okay. This is okay. You are just too cool. The first interview, I thought, you're deep. This is awesome. Now you're blowing my mind. Do you know, I know several people that have had the triangle on them. It's like some of them it'll show up, and I don't know if it's the same thing, but a little on their wrist or their hand. Where's my hand? My hand, or on the wrist. Do you know, I woke up with my forearm in the shape of a triangle. I don't understand it, but it was a triangle pointed in the shape of a triangle and another one here. I've also woken up with it on my hand. And I know a couple other people. I don't know if they want me to say their names. I know one that said it publicly. So that's Ray Hernandez. He's been on the channel a few times. And then I think, and then another person I know in India went to, what is it, Machu Picchu? And he had it on his hand. So they don't need to mark us. They know who we are already. And I know they do follow family lines. What do you think all that's about, the triangle? What does that mean? Does that just show we've been here? What does that mean?
Well, for my father, after his experience, so him and 3 buddies took off after dinner one night. This is in Leader, Saskatchewan, little town in Saskatchewan, where, by the way, Sasquatch got its name after Saskatchewan. And so where you find Bigfoot, you find UFOs typically.
I want one to come out of a UFO. That's what I want. I want to see both. That would be like a double hitter right there.
Yeah. So in this experience, my father and his buddies took off after dinner down a dirt road. This big white light was behind them. Then suddenly it was in front of them. Then it was out in the field. It wasn't kicking up any dust. So my father pulled over. Him and his passenger got out. The 2 guys in the back seat were like, let's get the hell out of here. But my father and his buddy, they wanted to see what this was. So they got out. They were leaning against the driver's side door. And the next thing they knew, they were sitting in the vehicle. And then they saw this white light race across the field, merge with a larger orange light, and then take off into space. So they went to the nearest farmhouse and they were banging on the door. You guys seeing these lights? And the woman was furious. They were knocking on her door after midnight. And so that is when they realized they had lost 4 hours of time. The next morning, my father woke up and he had an irritation on his wrist, and he realized that he had this triangular shaped gray object embedded in his wrist. And so shortly after that, he got recruited by NCR, National Cash Register Company. Okay. He started to work for NCR. Then he was transferred to Mount Shasta after marrying my mother and having my sister. He was transferred to Mount Shasta, where I was born, at Shasta County Hospital. And my early years were spent in mystical, magical Mount Shasta. And then NCR transferred him to Dayton, Ohio, right next to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Mind you, James Patterson founded National Cash Register Company. My father spent time at Wright-Pat. My father was German speaking because his mother was German. And on Sunday nights, when we lived in Dayton, Ohio, German men would come to the house. My mother would usher us into the back bedrooms, and my father and these German men would pore over plans on the dining room table. It wasn't until I was older and I learned about Project Paperclip that I wondered if my father wasn't working directly with these German scientists. So we have a propane truck. I'm sorry to do this live, but my dogs might start going berserk.
No, it's okay. A lot of people, I'm sure, have pets, and they're just doing their job as dogs. So
yes, I'll try to control them. Okay. And so in any case, my father was very secretive about his work. But growing up, my father was always pointing at the sky, pointing at the constellations, talking about Pleiades was a nebula, really interested in the 3 belt stars of Orion, which, as we know, the ancients called the gateways to the gods.
Yeah.
And so, I sort of grew up with this. Paranormal experiences growing up. One time I remember a fireball just racing through our yard. And when it did, the kettle on the stove popped off the stove, hit the ceiling, and crashed back down. Just wild stuff that would happen. When I was a little kid, I clearly remember in the night hearing footsteps coming down the hallway, entering my room, and these beings that I called Casper because that's the only reference I had, but they were blue spirit beings, and they would come and they would stand around my bed. I was always happy to see them. This experience was always joyful. I knew they were doing something that was loving, caring, and it felt like some kind of transmission.
Yeah, you think? That is you are okay, your cool factor was, like, pretty high, but it's through the roof now. Okay, so do you think these okay, just asking because 'cause I'm curious. Do you think they were Arcturians, Syrians, or the Blu-ray people beings?
Being blue, I think they were Syrian. In our last episode,
Mhm.
you were talking about the Syrians.
Yes,
And although my missing time experience was directly related to the Arcturians, I definitely feel a connection to the Syrians. Now, we know here in Sedona, the Hopi consider Sedona a sacred site. They say that their star ancestors are the Syrians. Their
wow.
god Masao is a being from Sirius, and their god Masao told them that they too were from the star Sirius B, and that they had come to planet Earth on a mission, and it's their whole, mythology story. And so we know the Dogon tribe of North Africa, they too say that they're from the star Sirius B. And so, yes, the indigenous tribes around the world feel very connected to Sirius B, and I do too. And so I felt like that was the source of those beings. Now, as I grew up, I set that all aside. My psychic experience as a kid, playing with all these invisible beings in Mount Shasta, and then having these experience with these Casper beings. But then when I was in my late 20s, I started to have the experience again of being in bed and hearing those footsteps coming up the stair, coming down the hallway. And in a specific experience that I had a hypnotic regression with Laurie McDonald. By the way, that experience on the mountaintop in 95, my
Yeah.
first spiritual awakening, Laurie McDonald did a hypnotic regression about that too. And I'll tell you what came up. But with this experience in my late 20s of these beings coming into my room, they were Arcturian. And they came and they had a message for me that it was me who had asked them to come at this pivotal time to transition me from the life I was living then to the life I was being called
Oh,
to.
I just find that beautiful.
And it was shortly after that that I had the experience on the mountaintop. This was happening when I lived on the East Coast. Shortly after that, I was called to run to the top of the mountain in the desert of Southern California and had the experience there. And that experience,
Episode 1, see episode 1, she talks about it, okay? Don't miss it, it's really good. Go ahead.
well, in that experience where I was called to run to the top of the mountain, and it's on the previous episode that we did, but at the top of the mountain, I had an experience of being surrounded by white light. And this voice comes out of the light and tells me, "Can't you see you've come home? You'll stay here and heal yourself and many others." So I always wondered, was this a divine experience? Was this extraterrestrial? But in the in the hypnotic regression that I did with Laurie McDonald, what was revealed is that these beings from the inner earth had surfaced. They were blonde hair, blue eyes, pale skin,
Oh my gosh, like I described earlier that I saw the Argathians. They're very
right?
I don't know what they
Arcturian.
call you, but they're very, good looking. I thought they were Palladian, and he said no.
Well, having been born in Mount Shasta, I
Yeah.
felt very connected to this idea of these inner earth beings, the Telosians, this inner city of Talos in Mount Shasta,
Ooh, yes.
these ancient Lemurians, right?
Yeah,
Adama. And so
yeah.
certainly, I felt very connected to the ancient Lemurians inside Mount Shasta. So when these beings surfaced, this is who they were, these ancient Lemurians. And they had this being between them. There was a man and a woman between them who looked just like me. And they said, "She
I
would
get
like to walk into you." And I said, "Yes." And so she walked into me, turned around, and looked out. And that made so much sense for me because in that moment on the mountaintop, it felt like I had been aligned with my higher self, aligned with my true calling, and also I had a spontaneous healing. So I had been merged with my higher self. And so that
No,
leads into my
that
missing
makes
time
sense.
experience.
That makes sense. And people might, I don't know what different levels of spirituality they are, but the higher self, we're more than just what's sitting here. I mean, there's part of us, in the heavenly realms, there's part of us on different planets. It's just huge. So the fact that you came from different dimensions, your higher self, to be able to really bring those fragments of you back in and get you going, because whatever it did, it worked.
Right? I was so catapulted onto a spiritual path in 1995. I had another, dramatic shift in 2008. And then I had the missing time experience in 2017.
17.
Now, 2017, living in Sedona, I live in a small town called Rimrock, which is where you have Montezuma's Well. Okay, Montezuma's Well is considered a place of emergence for the Yavapai. I just live walking distance from Montezuma's Well. They say it's one of the most powerful portals in Sedona. So the Yavapai emergence story there is that they were in the inner earth at the time of the Great Flood. That's how the Hopi story starts too. They were in the inner earth at the time of the Great Flood. Now, the Yavapai say that the inner earth started to flood and they were worried about losing their lineage. So they sent up a girl in a hollowed out log who surfaced in Montezuma's Well. Her name was Kamala Puquia. They say Kamala Puquia floated to the edge and then hiked up Mingus Mountain, which is in Cottonwood. At the top of Mingus Mountain, they say that she was met there by the sun god Ra, who impregnated her. Right? So now you have this hybrid being that she has a son. She has a daughter. When the daughter comes of age, she does the same thing. She hikes the top of Mingus Mountain and gets impregnated by Ra. Her daughter has a son, Sakara Comanche. Then the daughter gets taken up by a silver eagle, leaving only Kamala Puquia and
Spaceship?
her grandson.
Silver Eagle?
Comanche.
Spaceship? Is that what you think?
Taken up by a silver eagle, right?
Yeah.
And so, this is also extraterrestrial in nature. The sun
Yeah.
god Ra, right? We've heard of Ra, in so many different references throughout Egyptian mythology, Mayan cosmology, right? Here comes the sun god Ra, the Law of One series. And so the Native Americans are talking about this experience of Ra impregnating, a Native American woman and having this hybrid children. Right. So anyways, this all takes place in this area of Montezuma's Well, which I can see from my back deck. Now,
Okay.
here's the thing. Fall of 2017, I have two friends staying with me. We all felt very connected to the Arcturians. One of them said that when he was out in Superstition Mountain, that he actually had a direct experience with an Arcturian ship landing, him going aboard, him becoming connected with this Arcturian female named Jazz. Okay, so I'm with these two people, and we decide one night that we're going to call upon the Arcturians to make themselves more evident. Now, we had seen a lot of lights off the back deck, but nothing really direct. So we said, hey, we would love to have direct.
You are so my kind of people. I'm with you. I would do it too, and I would get on that ship. I'm serious. I would. I would love it. Go ahead.
Right. And so we all hold hands in my living room and we're calling upon the Arcturians. And then we go out on the back deck. Now, the first thing that happens is the lights come on the back deck. Well, the only way to turn the lights on is from the inside of the house. And the only people are us three out on the back deck. Then my friend says, whoa, I feel dizzy. And she grabs the handrail. There's a huge explosion of light on the horizon. And I said, I feel dizzy too. And then we look down because this is an upper deck and I have motion detectors, and the motion detector on the bottom level goes off, the middle level and the upper level. It's as if someone's coming up the stairs, but we don't see anyone. The next thing I do is I turn and I look at my two friends. And I go, gosh, I'm freezing out here. What are we doing out here? Let's go inside. So we go inside. We're trying to make conversation, but we're all disoriented and exhausted. And I said, I don't know why I'm going to bed at 8 o'clock at night, but I'm exhausted. And so then I go to the kitchen, I turn over my phone and it says 12:40. And I was stunned.
No
right?
way. Oh, okay. My mind is blown. So the time that you're like, come on, let's do this and hold hands. And that was what time you think?
8:30.
Okay, 8ish. And then you just felt like, oh, let's go inside. We're cold. You're thinking, oh, 30 minutes or 20 minutes, and you go inside and it's like 3.5 hours, something like that.
Right. Yeah. So this was after dinner. It's probably around 8:30. It felt like we were on the deck for no more than 10 minutes. Right. And
And
so
they had the
literally
same
4
missing
hours.
time. They had the
Mhm.
same missing time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I got two witnesses. We had the same thing. And so, but we were so exhausted. I just barely got into my bedroom and just threw myself down on the bed. Now,
Oh.
the next thing, I wake up the next morning. I am nauseous, dizzy, disoriented. I go out to the kitchen. I look at the coffee pot. No way. I'm just getting some water. I'm sipping on water. My two friends come out of the back bedrooms. They look green. We're all nauseous. We're all dizzy. We're all disoriented. And we're stunned because we're wondering, like, what in the heck happened last night? But it's not like we were talking all excitedly. Oh my God, do you think we got taken up? Blah. We were just stunned.
Kind of
We
dazed.
really were rather speechless and dazed. And plus, we were
Yeah.
nauseous and disoriented. We didn't feel well until later that day. In fact, that day, two friends were coming over. One who wrote a book about out of body experiences, and the other one, Tom Dongo, famous UFO guy here in Sedona. Right. And they were coming over and they were in my living room with the other two. And I felt like I was going to hurl. The whole time I kept thinking that would be so embarrassing to be, hurled in
Yeah.
the bathroom with all these people in my house. So I just kept saying, you're okay, taking deep breaths, sipping on water. Finally, around 2 or 3, we were able to push some food around our plate. That night, we were meant to have these two people coming from Colorado. They were coming. It was late. It was the middle of the night. And I was like, I am exhausted. I just want to go to bed. And they're like, oh, but, these people are coming, this dignitary from the Philippines. And, he's part of this Galactic Council. And, sounds like a typical night in Sedona, right?
Yeah, no, I'm in. Go ahead.
So, these people show up. I'm like, this guy's a dignitary. Are we supposed to be like rolling out this red carpet? He comes. We haven't even told him anything that's happened. He sits down on my couch, which faces out. I have just all glass door, and so,
Oh, that sounds great.
like, I live in a fishbowl. All the walls are like glass.
Oh,
And
see,
so,
that's what I want. I need a fishbowl. I've been asking for that, so I'm with you. Go ahead.
I don't know. It's a little bit disconcerting
We're back to
sometimes.
Sirius
because-
B, which I have had many lives as Sirius B and A, but Sirius B is very dear to me. So of course we like fish bowls.
Right, dolphins. Yes. So in any case, this gentleman from the Philippines is sitting on my couch looking out toward the back deck through the glass doors. There's a light sitting on the horizon. And he says, that's your Arcturian ship. And you're here watching you. They're watching you. And we were like, what? And then my friend says, you know what? After we had that experience last night, and then she starts telling him about the experience, she said she was pulled back out to the back deck between 2 and 3 a.m. And she had this telepathic experience of going aboard this ship on the horizon and seeing me in a silver uniform.
So badass.
I was this Arcturian commander of this ship. that we had been taken aboard. So
Oh
there you
man.
have
Oh man, Commander Suzanne. I actually like the ring of that a lot. That's very good. This is what I mean, our higher self. I mean, I'm not making light of it. I'm not. But this is an avatar, but we got a lot going on. That is so cool. Which, you know, I get people, it's like a football team who they're going to cheer for. I mean, I have a very, a lot of times we cheer for the last planet we came from, like yay, Pleiades or yay, whatever, yay, Sirius, yay, Arcturus, or Orion or whatever it is. We connect with certain things. A lot of Lemurians, they connect, little, space hippies and all. But in reality, we have been all these things. And so we don't want to limit ourselves. I've run several past life being Arcturian. I have in my intro, the temple, the light source goes out where I would take, I didn't look human. Okay. I was tall, long head, and I would, very peaceful, very calm. And I did things with the elements, and then it would go straight up through. And it wasn't just a portal. It was an energy source. It was a power center. It was like a power center. And we've all done so many things, but the fact is what we can't grasp, I think, as in these vessels as humans sometimes, is that time is an illusion. We can still be these things going on now. Right?
definitely all simultaneous unfolding.
Right. This is not linear and is not also one dimension. We can have multiple things. So that's cool. So I'm just going to ask you anytime you want someone in your spaceship, I'll come aboard. I already told my husband and I told my mom, I said, look, they ask I'm going. And she got upset. She's like, really? I'm like, it's okay. I'll be back. I'll see you. Don't worry about it. But I think that's part of the disclosure. I mean, this is a phenomenal experience. And then your dad, my gosh, how freaking cool. And then you lived at Mount Shasta, which, I mean, how could you, that had to be magical. But the fact that the triangle, have you experienced the triangle like your dad? Not
No,
yet.
I've never seen any kind of implant on my body whatsoever. But,
Okay.
there was definitely a download. Now, my dad became a genius on the front lines of the emerging computer age, and he attributed it to his alien ship.
Well,
Okay, so,
yeah,
right.
technology.
And for myself, after my missing time experience, I went to a psychic here in Sedona who was a friend of mine, very well known. Before I was even seated in her chair, she said, whoa, like I'm being shown this experience of you and two others going out on your back deck, an Arcturian ship landing in an invisibility shield, these three Arcturians getting out, coming up your stairwell, taking each one of you by the hand, taking you into this pod ship, which goes up into a larger mothership. While you're aboard, you're downloaded with this knowledge, wisdom, gifts to be
Yes.
unfolded over time, to be revealed over time. I have no recall of any of it,
Oh,
but
well,
I can
it's not
tell you
fair.
that it wasn't but a couple weeks after I was compelled to buy poster board and markers, and I would sit out in my front yard in the direct rays of the sun. So I always feel like I'm being downloaded from the sun, right? And I was drawing 12 circles around a circle like a zodiac wheel, but I knew they were dimensions. And in a flash, whew, I would download who I was in the first, second, third, what the first and second, third dimensions were. The third dimensional being the first incarnational dimension, who I was being in the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th, what they were, who I was there, what I was doing there in these downloads. And so it went beyond, okay, an information about what my name was, what the star system was. It was an
Exactly.
experience of being who I was being there, finding myself as who I was being, what I looked like, what it felt like, what my name was, what my occupation was. Yeah. And so I was able then, obviously, to take the position of the one projecting these holographic fractals of myself into these different timelines and dimensions, right? to
Yes.
see through the eyes of the source self or the eternal soul essence, right?
Yes.
And have
Yeah.
these direct experiences. Then I knew I was being called to do it for others. And so that's one of the main services that
Yes.
I offer for people, or what I call multidimensional soul reunions.
Yes. Oh, this is beautiful. You know, and this is such a great example of I think sometimes people are so literal when we talk about UFO disclosure. Yeah, okay. I've seen ships and big ones. Okay. I saw a mothership. I can't explain it, but it's true. I drove up, saw it in my backyard. I was getting pizza Sunday night, and I saw it 2 months before the fleet. My husband saw it going up to Asheville. Same place Stephen Greer saw his is in Asheville and Charlotte, and I saw it here. So it's not just Sedona; they're everywhere. And you know, he's more grounded, which I need that. But he's not. He doesn't try to be like me. He's not, but he's open. But he's like, look at that. There were 4 or 5 right by a car. It went on 10 minutes, and then I had looked like a fireball beside mine. Got real close, and it was huge. And I just started crying. I kept telling him how much I love him. I mean, I know it's peculiar, but that's just what I felt. And I got after that, which I had Mary Rodwell on the channel, and she said, and I read her book. Oh,
Yeah. I've
I-
interviewed Mary too. Yeah.
Oh, and I was like, oh God, I think I'm one of her people in there that she talks about. Anyway, I was like, that was great. So I did get an activation. She said, if you get an activation. I started drawing light codes. I could speak light language to speak more, but then so much happened. I started getting all this wisdom. I started knowing I can look and tell where someone's from, what their mission, like you. But you and I aren't the only one. Like Debbie Solaris gets it too. But
Sure.
I can't explain to you why. My husband's like, how do you know all this stuff? I said, I have no idea. But it's happened to you. It's a download. And I think it's a part of our forgetter mechanism. They remove and they reignite because it's already installed. Our memory is kind of already there. But they're doing this, which is great news. It's great revelation of news to people like you and me and Debbie Source. And I'm sure there's people watching. They're doing it to you too. And I met a guy at an art festival. I took my mom to this art festival in Hickory, North Carolina. Mountains beautiful, the valley, and I bought this UFO painting. I was like, oh, I love it. They said, we knew someone odd was going to buy this. Oh, I love it. And he goes, well, you know, I had missing time. I said, I didn't mean it's so bad. What are the after effects? And so we talked about that for a while, but it's happening everywhere. And I think it's because I think it has to do with ethics. I think that they can't just go, wow, we're here. I think they're trying to get people that are willing and that are open to be a part of this. And as they become to unfold with us, kind of like your channelers that you're going to have, and you're a channeler, I'm a channeler. I mean, but more channelers are waking up. They're doing that so we can make it safe for the rest of the world when whatever this event that happens. I don't know how it's going to roll out. I really don't. But I think they're doing this on purpose because we're speaking about it right now. Because I believe this 100% when you witness stuff. And I can recall now as a kid being in when my mom left home and she was with this guy. It all ended up great, but at the time we were in a trailer. It's not good. In England, they call it a caravan. I came from a 10,000 square foot home. Didn't like the trailer. Anyway, that I saw massive bright lights landing in the trailer park. And yeah. So they've been watching people like us for a really long time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Definitely multi-generational. My sister has had experiences as well. Very mission oriented, right? It's as if, there comes a time when it is, we have some kind of paranormal experience that awakens us to this realization
Yeah.
that, we are here on a galactic and earthly mission. But that, what was revealed to me after I started doing these multidimensional soul reunions, because I just felt compelled to
Yeah.
do these for
Yeah.
people.
And it's helping people. It's igniting them.
Oh, thank you. took the words out of my mouth. It's exactly like after it started happening, I thought, oh, well, this is a nice, soul reunion. It gives people an idea about who they're being in the other, dimension. But then I was shown one morning I'll get these visions like right between, like at dawn. And I got this vision of what's happening when you merge people with who they're being as a more advanced and evolved being, that ignites dormant DNA and brings more of their brain online, because they're literally merging with a more advanced and evolved aspect of
You're
themselves.
pulling the fragments of their soul back together, but they have to be willing to look at it. But if you do it in a way that they're ready and is safe, I do that. Well, we're all doing it to a degree, waking people up. Let's be honest. In the Ascension community, everybody's doing it their own way, and we're trying to just get people to remember. I bet you anything, because let me think of her name. She's a famous shaman on Hay House. I can't think right now. Long dark hair. She did. I went to a thing one time. I don't know, some festival or whatnot, and she did a whole. Which I've done a lot of past life, and most are not here on this planet, but she did a past life thing, and she did a whole group. I don't know. There's about 1,000 people. I bet you that this might be good for my for my school, because I'm thinking, what can we do? That might be cool to think of something to get people to kind of just like on a guided journey, because just even if it just wakes them up, because once they wake up, we have to do the work ourselves. But I mean, I'm really excited to hear. I mean, gosh, you really are deep. I mean, you don't just do the events. That's why you understand how to pick people. So you really do, you do the work. You do the hard work. So have you gotten, I mean, I know you do, are you getting more galactic interaction?
Well, part of the source of my books, and this is my book Rise Up, and it's
Yeah.
got over 100 full color illustrations. One of them right here is Belle Rock in Sedona. But
Yeah.
we also go to sacred sites around the world, like Egypt. And I have all kinds of like activations. We go to places like the Mayan temples. Here's the sun gates of the Mayan temples. The journey through Rise Up is 10 days on the Ascension path, but a lot of the information within it was directly downloaded through me. I was doing automatic writing. I was channeling. I was asking very important questions about who are we? Why are we here? How did creation come into being, and why? And what was the techniques? What is gravity for? I was just asking all of these like profound questions. And as I did, the answers are being downloaded through me. I used Dragon Naturally Speaking voice recognition software, because
Yeah.
as these
Yeah.
downloads would come, I would
Yeah.
speak it, right? I'd
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
channeling, and my computer would
Got
be
it.
typing.
Got it. I got Dragon for that same reason. Okay, so I just want to tell you that you did something very kind for me just now. That I I have this conversation with my guides and my higher self all the time. Sometimes it feels like an argument, and I'm like, "Well, what do you mean? What does that mean? How am I supposed to do that?" Well, not that I don't mind doing things. I just sometimes try to understand the point of view. And they told me that I'm supposed to channel information and sacred information. I'm like, I don't know who's going to read it. I don't know, blah, 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 blah. But the fact is, I don't need to worry about that. And the fact they did that with you, it makes me feel like it's okay. It's just the next step again. So I think that collectively, that when all of us, anyone listening, that gets, whether it's just a couple words or a book, or it doesn't matter, okay, but when you start getting information, don't hold it within, because there are others just like you that are also receiving you can call it, if you want to, divine, because I do not believe it's nefarious. I do not. I think that it's beautiful, and it is moving us forward to this next evolution, because we cannot go forward with this duality. It sucks. I know a lot of us are like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm checking out of this. We're gonna win. We're gonna eat better. We're gonna help each other. We're not doing this downtown game anymore. We're not gonna participate in that. We're gonna create a new earth, one that's better. And you can feel these emerging leaders, and I think it's just as simple as they said yes to the call.
Yes, it's interesting. I was just watching the Sean Ryan show this morning because Stephen Greer was a guest on the show, and I really respect
I like
Stephen
him.
Greer.
Yeah,
His
I like what he
decades of
does.
dedication and research, right?
Mhm,
And his
mhm.
involvement with Congress and Senate, and he's really
Yeah,
trying to make a difference. And
yeah.
his depth of research, because he's worked with just hundreds of people. He said that he has over 1,000 people, basically on his team who are continuing to do the research, to
Yes.
speak to people in the know, to try to find out, exactly what's happening within the world, leaders, like what's happening
Mhm,
around the world when it comes to UFO disclosure, and the world leaders who are working directly with these extraterrestrial races and who they
mhm.
are and why. Right. And he was saying, yes, there's been a lot of reverse engineering of these crafts, especially after, there have been like crash landings, or, they start working with an extraterrestrial race and they'll like maybe exchange technology for whatever.
Right.
But, he said something that really hit home with me this morning. And he said, if there's nefarious things going on and it's related to a craft, it's man-made.
It's here.
It's
Yeah,
man-made, and they're
yeah.
using these craft for nefarious purposes that
I
are
agree.
mostly focused on money. Money, child trafficking, drug trafficking,
A
unbelievable. Using crafts they have reverse
Absolutely.
engineered for those purposes. He
Mhm.
said, if it's benevolent, it's extraterrestrial.
I have to agree with you, and look, back to that box. I don't think we should be in a box, and we need to know it's safe, that we are an eternal soul. We can think for ourselves. And sometimes this dogma, whether you have no religion, a religion, you came from some part of the world, I think it's important to question and think past that, actually question everything. And from what I found, it is very positive influences. So, I wanted to go here real quick with you. So, my understanding, and you have a wealth of understanding too, so I can't wait to hear what you're going to say. What I've been getting, and it's not like sometimes I go, hey, this is a show. We need some help, guys. I'm doing my part. I'm busting my butt. I'm trying to get people out there. I'm trying to get trying to have a dialogue, and they do hear that. But what I've been told is that, without, I'm not going to actually name names, but there's certain, let's say, man, or certain galactic races that have not come along with this, the rest of the planetary system, to get along, and most do get along. It's a small percentage that Astor, the Galactic Federation, he showed up to me 2.5, 3 years ago. He had been, but I didn't think he was real. He had come to me before, but then I drew his picture and he had this. I said, "Why are you talking to me?" He said, "It's time. You just need to know who you are." And he had this long thing. He took me on a tour. Now I've been on numerous tours. I didn't realize it was real till I had Preston Denton on, and I was like, "Oh, great, it's real." So I've been talking to this guy. So apparently, and we all show up on the ship occasionally for a conference. I've recognized people on there. Anyway, he said they're on top of this, and he said what's happened. And he's even given me like the chemtrails, how the nanoparticles, they do this technology that it makes it inactive. I said, well, good, work on the 5G. And so he said they're working on things. And he said because there are stipulations that they have broken parts of the contract, the agreement, and because of that, they're on the fringe. That they are certain. How do I say it? I'm not saying I'm waiting on the Calvary. We're the Calvary, but I'm saying that we're actually one. We're family, and we're part of that, and all that. But that because of these nefarious sources, they've broken so many agreements from this treaty that they actually do have right to come in and assist when necessary. And what I've been told is they're on their way out, and they're just kind of like a kid kicking and screaming, because this has, and of course it's been prophesized, like you said, through the Hopi prophecy and so forth. And had what is it? Sergio Manaya, who was on Hay House, and he wrote the Toltec prophecies. Similar thing. and this is going to pass. The ascension will take place. And so I think the people that are here on earth helping with that are asking, are getting assistance.
Yes.
What do you think? I think they're on their way out. I feel very confident. Some big events coming. I have no idea what it is. I have not been told that. And I don't think maybe we're supposed to be told that. I'm just ready, and I'm very optimistic, and feel prepared to step out. I don't know what it is, but I feel real confident. What do you feel? I think we're coming to an end of an end of a cycle. I think it's important.
Yes, I mean, is a lot of end time prophecy, right? And I believe that those who are ready for an ascension experience, in other words, they have been able to raise their love light frequency to a certain level that resonates with a higher evolutionary experience, a higher dimensional experience,
Yeah.
that they'll have the opportunity to ascend embodied
So
into a
boom,
next higher
different
dimensional
timeline,
plane.
right? Is that what you mean? A splitting of timelines?
I do. It's
Okay.
like the same thing that the church talks about the rapture. Okay, very similar. There's an end times, there's judgment day, and people who are living in Christ consciousness, the church might say only Christians, but in other
Uh,
words,
eh,
people who are in Christ consciousness. Okay,
right.
so it's the same concept
Yes.
that, they will be raptured. The church will be raptured, right? Christians
Right. Right.
specifically, if you're in that church. But, this is the end time prophecy written in the book of Revelations, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing we're
And
saying.
Daniel.
The end of an age,
It's got to
and at
happen.
the end of an age, we're calling it ascension, but my belief is that, when enough people who are vibrating at that higher dimensional frequency come together to co-create a new earth experience with
Yes.
that intention, they
Yes.
activate each other, and
Yeah.
we find ourselves living on a 5D plane of reality. Okay, those who maybe are new to the third dimensional experience, they've come to learn valuable lessons that can only be learned in a reality of duality, right? The separation, the suffering, whatever, the joy, the
Yeah.
happiness, this
Yeah.
reality of duality, they may not be ready. They're
Yeah.
still
You're
learning
right. You're
from the
right.
third dimensional experience, but it does require a certain resonance. Where you resonate at, there you are. So you have to develop that resonance to resonate with the 5D earth
Mhm.
plane, right? And
Yeah.
that is, this higher love light frequency that we're all,
Right.
you know, um, making a very conscious effort
We
to
are.
achieve through the spiritual path, right? We're all
Yeah.
becoming the highest version of ourselves every
Yeah.
day, consciously, intentionally, making the highest
Absolutely.
choices, aligning with love, compassion, kindness every day, taking the high road, right? And so it is an
You're
intentional
right.
effort.
Well, here's the thing. We have done how many millions of years have we been here that we decide, okay, here we are, and then we're in this thing. And then we have this shot for, we call it ascension. We have this shot and we feel it. We feel it. That's why people are spending their, I mean, how do I say this? This is not what you do, what I do, what others like me do, or spiritual practices. This is not a hobby. I mean, if I'm not talking with incredible people like you, I'm in there reading the latest books and looking through it, and then I have, I get my little peanut gallery, my guides or angels or star people making comments. Yeah, no, wrong. Yeah, and I'm watching Gaia TV. I mean, and then at night I'm astral or quantum traveling. Really quantum. Not I don't like astral. I don't like the lower level, but eh, we're people. They're really taking this seriously because this is our shot for something better, not just for us, but for um the rate the well, it's not just for planet earth. It supersedes that. It's for the whole galaxy, but this is our shot to do better, and I don't think we're trying really hard not to blow it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I really think that it's happening, it's happening, it's happening. That, as we raise our love light quotient, okay, that we start creating 5D lives for ourselves right here and now. Like you said,
Yeah.
same thing. I get up, meditate, read something. I might tune in to, YouTubes or something that, has to do with all of this. I sit, and listen to my guides and write my books. Same thing. I do. Then I engage in sessions with people and take people out into the
All
vortex
that.
sites of Sedona, planning my event, speaking to people who are in the industry. So it just, yeah, this is a 5D life. And we attract the like-minded 5D heart,
Yes.
soul inspired people, right?
This
And this is one of my reasons for having these gatherings too, is to gather the unity community, to co-create a new earth.
Oh, yes, and you do a beautiful job. Really, everyone should check out everything that you do. I will say that if someone is not quite there but feels this pull, but maybe they have some real 3D family or a spouse or whatnot, it's okay because I send those people love. My mom told me recently, she goes, I knew you were an odd child, but I saw some of your show. I didn't know you were that. I went, thanks, Mom. You should have figured that out a long time ago. But the thing is, I love people where they are. You know what I mean? That's where they
Sure.
want to be, and okay, then that's fine.
Right?
But for me, I have to say, since I've become more my authentic self and less edited, meaning more genuine. And when I say less edited, I mean it positive, like sincerity, not like whatever. And because that's important, people like that. People like talking to the soul. They don't like whatever the standard template. And talking about these topics and not throwing anything off the table and going, okay, talking to people of all religions, no religions, people, and just being there and being present and seeing everybody as a gift. I'm so much happier. Okay. Being that person versus the person that owned the ad agency that was in the corporate world and was rat race. And I knew those people didn't care about me. And I knew I wasn't part of something really that big. I mean, I learned skills I use now, but I feel so enriched now and helping others and helping me. And I see for the first time ever that I've ever really seen it actively, other truth seekers, light workers, spiritual workers are coming together gladfully when necessary.
Yes, right? We have to. Like,
We
this is
have
what
to.
unity is all about. And when we share with one another our different perspectives, offering wisdom, guidance, just exploring these, advanced topics and just expressing our sincere desire to become one, to have these experiences where we know how connected we are through our hearts and minds, this neural network of the one great mind, right? This one great heart of the one infinite creator. We know we're all an intricate part of the one great self. Just sharing these concepts that resonate so profoundly with us. And then this desire to co-create a new earth with higher ways of living
Yeah,
and being together in
yeah.
unity and equality and sovereignty with prosperity. And hell no, we don't want the new world order and you'll own nothing and be happy. Right?
Well, no, I mean, a lot of us, without going down the whole, it's not really conspiracy theory, it's fact. Going down that, because here's the thing, you just follow the rabbit hole and you look at the evidence, and either it's there or it's not. And a lot of us starseeds, we know exactly what's going on, and it's pathetic. In some ways, I feel sorry, like, really, you're playing this old game. And so, we know that the highest force there is love, and I do believe that every one of us are equipped to be here at this time to move forward to help with this. And those that aren't, they're still met with love. That's fine. But what everybody's doing what you're doing, offers a platform. I try to offer people a platform to come out, and I do that with my school too. Hey, if you want to be a guest teacher, pick a topic, it'll be great, and we'll do something. And I do that because, yeah, I don't mind talking, but I get bored. I mean, I'd rather, talk to other people, share. I learned just from you mentioning your dad and your missing time experience. I'm like, I'm going to be thinking about that for days. And I'm totally wanting to go on your Arcturian ship. I'm just going to tell you that. So we'll make a trade. So it's funny. I've had a couple psychics too. It's funny. This is our world, right? And they said, you've got Arcturian ships. They're following you. And I'm like, well, I hope so. They're my family. And so I'm not Arcturian, but Syrian. But I do love Arcturians too. But the Syrians, I don't know why that is yet, but the Pleiadians are fine. But I talk a lot to the Arcturian Syrian high council, and I don't know why. Like, they got a lot of councils over there. I can't figure it out. But I'll go on your Arcturian ship if you want to go on my Syrian ships. But I literally do see them, and what happens is I will start talking to them, and they'll start appearing in the sky, and then I'll go out, take the trash. They're like, that's a really bright star. Those things, they'll come out, they'll be gone. But I've actually been in a field waiting for them. My husband, I got to give it to him. He went out in a field in a cold night. We stood there. We were waiting. I'm like, well, I guess they don't want it to happen this time. I said, fine. But we don't have to necessarily physically go out and see them. We can also have this, because through our consciousness, we can have communication with these beings, which are much more ascended in a love vibration, and they don't think of this weird stuff. Again, I always say use discernment. I mean, if they do, then it's not them, okay? Because they're going to come through almost angelic, and they're going to be concerned for all that's involved. But I do think we're physically going to see something occur on this planet. I don't think it's all in the other dimensions. What do you think? You think we're going to get some kind of little landing party going on? I do.
I do, but maybe not everyone will be able to observe it, because let's keep in mind, they're vibrating at a much higher frequency. These are advanced, evolved beings who are much less dense, right? So it's hard for them to come into our environment and lower their vibration to the point where we can observe them with our limited spectrum of perception. But as we advance and evolve ourselves intentionally, we expand our spectrum of perception, right? And so, I think that it's possible that not everyone will witness it. In fact, I've had experiences where I've seen a spinning silver disc spinning above a red rock formation, and I'm freaking out. You look at that, you can just see it. And people are like, what the hell are you talking about? They don't see
They're
it.
right there. See, I've heard this from other people too. And actually, it was Ray Hernandez's story when he said, yeah, if you're there, show me. And he goes outside and he's kind of this invisible Wonder Woman craft. It was huge. But they allowed the neighbors to see, but then other neighbors couldn't see. So, and I'm not talking about like I'm talking about physical, somehow showing up physically where we're aware of that. My husband saw those ships, and I think I know why. It's because it gave me a second person to say they saw it too. And he was very cool with it. He said, "Oh, that's really great." Like, he was like, not like he sees it every day, and they were following us 10 minutes. So that to me was incredibly magical. I felt very touched because it was letting me know I just felt like you've always been with me. Thank you. And I think it's like any kind of love relationship. You pick them, they pick you.
Right.
Right? So it's not like they're just picking us. We're going along with it too. So, but I do think there'll be some kind of this some type of interaction, but it feels very exciting to me. It feels like that's why I was born this time, whatever this is, right? And I know we're on a journey. I know it's just not an event, but it feels like everything, all those moments when you could be relaxing, that we're reading books and looking at Gaia TV and all this, it's all going to come together, and all the downloads are all going to be totally revealed, instead of in hidden compartments. So I think that's why it's really, really important to have online venues, any kind of venues, in-person venues, because we need to gather the people that are open to this, so we have a safe place that we can have these conversations. And you're one of the people providing that.
Oh, thank you. It's my calling. I feel compelled to have these events, and
Well, it's
it's just
important.
so wonderful to be around, like-minded souls, to be able to have these types of conversations, out in the open. It's another reason I like
Mhm.
living in Sedona, because when I was living in Northern California and we would start talking about these things, we had to go sit in the corner of the coffee shop, right? We couldn't be like, talking about this stuff out in the open. And here, if you're not talking about that, you're, out of place. So
Well, I love that, and I did that was actually a comment I made to my husband going to your, Sedona Ascension retreat last March, and I said, "It's so cool. I can just go up and just say anything that's on my mind and start talking about," and not only do they don't judge, they get it, and they know about the topic too, and we can talk about it because 'cause they're like me. They're reading stuff constantly. They're constantly spiritually feeding themselves. So I could go up to someone who's per se like a shaman. They're still going to know all the same at the level, like your things. I could talk to anyone there, and they're totally jiving with me and smiling. And I said it was such a relief. Whereas you got to think where I live. I live in the South. Think about it. There is all sorts of
yeah,
stigmas and dogma
I was just gonna
here,
say,
but we have to be everywhere, right? Us star
yes,
seeds have to
of
be
course.
we
Yeah,
have to be in New
the
Zealand,
place.
Australia, the UK, Africa, North and South Carolina. There's a lady who's a Palladian I want to have on my channel, if I got to get a hold of her. But Eva Martinez, she's right in my backyard. I said, "You got to
Mhm.
be kidding." And she's written tons of channel books, tons of stuff. And she goes, "You're Syrian." I said, "Yeah." And then she's like, which sometimes if I get real excited, I'll start turning blue. I do. I don't know if I'm blue now. This is not my lighting. I put it on the warmest setting. It's really awesome. Sometimes I glow. But anyway, she's right here. We have to have these light sources igniting regions. So, as much as I would love to hang out in certain areas, which I'm not saying I might not one day retire in a certain area, but we have to be everywhere to hold the space of the planet and these power light grids, these spiritual light grids in place. So that's what I noticed also about your conference. We have people all over the world there.
Yes, and people come from all over the world. I have
Yeah.
people from Australia, from the UK, from New Zealand. Yeah, people
Mhm.
are coming from Europe and Mexico, and yeah, I'm very
Mhm.
excited that, people are drawn from all over the world to come and see these world-renowned speakers and presenters and channelers.
Yeah, and I think what's beautiful too is it's also calling the new people to come out and they have a lot to offer, and I try to do that too, and I think the Neil Gar at Portal Center, he's real good at seeing new talent too and new people coming out because we're trying to come on, join the family. We're trying to get these people to come out and feel comfortable, and they're coming out by the droves, and I think there is definitely a movement. There's a galactic movement going on. So I thank you for doing that and for being on the Seeking Heaven channel. I could have more of this dialogue about the UFO thing. You've blown my mind on everything you told me today. I just think that it's just, I know you even have more of an amazing story, but the missing time and all of that, and about your books and how they're channeled from this and how it's still coming. See, this information is still working through you. If we allow that to happen, we can all be um you know vessels from a higher source, even if it's our higher self.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yes.
thank you for being here.
Thank
Everybody
you.
sign up below. Trying to go to one, two, all of them. The Sedona Ascension Retreat, and you've got these journeys that you can take, and also your services, and buy Suzanne's books.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do. You're making a big difference by shining a spotlight on those in the community. So bless you and thank you for all you do personally as well. You're a bright, shining light, and I'm deeply grateful for being on your show.
Oh, thank you so much, Suzanne. I'm a big fan of yours. I respect you a lot, and I just say keep going. Go, 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 go. But allow me to go on your Arcturian ship sometime.
Right on. I'll put the word out.
All right. Much love to you,
Okay,
Suzanne.
you too.